So I think I've actually set the brightness a bit high, to be honest, especially considering the sun might come up. But I just want on the record, I know I complain about winter, the UK, blah blah blah. Which, for the record, I will say this: I like winter. I'm pro winter. I should move that around to. I always like to. So I guess maybe you could infer this. Basically, I always try and frame the shot so that it gets in my whole bookshelf, and I usually do that partially by moving it a little bit past this thing, because I just think that looks a little bit better. Whereas, of course, my media review channel, I frame it like that, specifically so it gets more of the... So, I've kind of got... if I was really committed, I'd have, I don't know, like another bookshelf there, and then I'd have just a whole... You get what I'm saying. Come on. All right, anyway. This setting is for outdoor scenes at night. That's how... That is... I mean, you probably can't see it, actually, wait. I guess. Wait, does it adjust at all? Because it shouldn't really, because it should be manually set. But that is daylight. But yeah, apparently outdoor scene at night, even though windows open. I have a light on as well. It's ridiculous. Having said that, yeah, there's a possibility that if the sun comes up more substantially, I may need to change it, which is my complaint. But yeah, I do like winter, and really, I guess I need to just embrace the fact that. At least, well, when it comes to production, there needs to be a whole lot of artifice when it comes to making videos. Anyway, so today, I will just double check actually, because this was well ahead, so I'd be surprised if it got overtaken overnight. But yeah, so interesting choice actually. I really didn't think you guys were going to vote for this. But like it's absolutely fine and dandy that you did. But the video that won the vote, first of all, from a channel with 2,000 subscribers, called Minecraft Made Me Trans. So I guess you guys thought, hey, it's Christmas, it's a time for fun, for merriment and the like. So let's just respond to a really silly video. See, well, I have no idea. Going into this video, I don't know who this is. I don't even know. I'm not even sure if. I guess someone else must have recommended this video. I'd assume I wasn't. See, sometimes I do add videos that I found that I thought would be fun to respond to, but I think someone else must have recommended this video. I have no idea what it is. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. I didn't actually clock how many views this video has, but let's go.
I'm not meaning to say that Minecraft is some sort of magical HRT. For the last...
I will say this, I don't like that voice. It's not a good voice.
Minecraft released in 2011, when I was only 6 years old, and I started playing it in 2013.
So this guy was born in 2000. This guy's 10 years younger than me. That's absurd. I feel bad about responding now. I'm 19. Sorry, I'm 29. This person... assuming this video was made really recently, this person's only 19. They look older.
Politics and gender identity. Inherently, they hold no link. However, in the UK and many other countries, they have been recently forced together into a horrifying chimera known as the trans debate.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, isn't it, I suppose, this statement. What does it mean for something to be political? Is it appropriate for certain things to be political and wildly inappropriate for other things to be political? I'd say my instinct is to say if there's any political debate about something, you have to recognize it's political. I mean, I was going to say, for example, like I'll say black people because that feels less offensive. See, I'll stick to my guns. Are Jewish people human? That's like a political debate, I guess, because there are Nazis and they would say no. So in the absolute sense, it's political. I was going to say black people, but I was like, why should that be like a less offensive thing to say? I don't know, yeah, it's weird. Because I suppose the real answer is that, yeah, really, every debate is political. It's just a matter of how fringe or centre it is. For example, taxes. That's obviously a political debate. But I suppose the thing is, because you could frame it the other way. You could say, like, well, if you say, well, you can't think that someone's, gender identity is political because that's some deep personal thing. Well, based on that, maybe you could say that you can't say taxes are political because essentially, what are taxes really about in our contemporary culture with a degree of redistributive justice? It's a question of, do you, as someone who has means, who has money, want to help those who don't by paying taxes, and those taxes will be used to provide them benefits and things like that. And if you say no, well, is that political, or is that you fundamentally eschewing one of your fundamental obligations as a human being to your fellow human beings? Like, I guess that's the question, isn't it? Because yeah, in a country where in the UK, children are starving, children are living in child poverty, saying, oh, I support low taxes. Is that just, oh, that's just a political opinion, or is that a fundamentally evil position to be holding when we know for a fact that having more taxes would free up way more government revenue to, for example, provide free lunch programs, free breakfast programs, so that people are able to eat. But that's the thing. So this question of can something be political? Well, if you get too kind of, I guess, provocative with the idea that certain things just can't be considered political, you open up a massive can of worms where you kind of think, well, can anything be considered political? Because actually, a lot of the things that are political to me matter so much that I could argue that, saying, oh, this is actually a political debate isn't even that far removed from saying, are these people even human? Like, genuinely, if you think that, I could be really spicy. I'm going to be spicy. No, I don't know. See, the thing is, I know that you guys, I don't want to upset you too much, but I'll just say it because I think it's a thing. Like, if I said, oh, the debate around Gaza is a political debate, but the question of are Arabs human beings, that's not a political debate. But then the question is, well, if you think that it's okay what's being done to them, do you really fully recognize that they're human beings? That's just an obvious example. Anyway, no, the big conclusion is this idea of, oh, we shouldn't have trans identity be a debate. Regardless of anything else, it kind of just has to be, because otherwise you could make an argument nothing's a political debate. Now, having said that, I should also point out that trans identity is also a political debate because it is actually, I don't think it should be controversial to disagree with a claim someone's making about reality. So there's that as well. It's not even as if we are talking about, do trans people deserve fundamental human rights? Are trans people human beings? Anything like that? No, the question is, are trans people in the claims they're making about reality? And the stuff that they're asking for, which is actually, it's not food, water, shelter, electricity, basic things that people need to survive, that people right now in the world are famously being denied. No, it's the right to use women's toilets and stuff like that.
This is a government and media-driven spotlight on the transgender and...
Sorry. Government and media-driven spotlight. No, this is actually famously quite a grassroots... The opposition to trans identity is a really grassroots thing that's come from a load of, mostly, let's say... I pressed play accidentally. Mostly feminists. Some other people as well, obviously, but yeah, mostly feminists who don't have that much institutional power in our society, pushing back against this thing, while the academics, the media elite, and political elite have all been opposed to it. And of course, as I've covered before, and Helen Joyce as well has covered this in her book, the trans identity movement has been very reliant on lobbying and essentially using lots of money and individual power to advance their position. So basically, it's the exact opposite to what's being claimed here.
The dead cat strategy comes from the idea that if you wish to distract someone, in this case the wider population, you should use a shocking statement or a scapegoat. Ironically...
Okay, so I think just in the interest of not having to play too much of the clip, I'll pause there and respond to, I guess, where this is going. Essentially, the idea that the trans identity debate is being used as a distraction from all these other issues. Well, I think that's probably true in the case of the Conservative political party. But at the same time, I don't think it's that effective, and I don't think it in reality is serving that function, because most people who are angry about the trans debate, that is tied up with all sorts of other issues as well. Like, that's kind of, I think that's my issue with the dead cat idea in general. Obviously, the sad thing would be, well, these people, it's using culture issues to distract from more kind of class analysis, where we'd look at the big problems with our system economically. But I don't think that the people who lack that class analysis do so because they've been distracted by a discussion over race or sexuality or trans identity or anything like that. I think that it's just that lots of people lack that class analysis. And indeed, there are lots of liberals who are completely tuned out of that debate. Like obviously Alistair Campbell said that he just didn't understand why this trans debate was a big issue. But Alistair Campbell is one of the big engineers of neoliberalism in the UK. So the idea that the kind of faults with our economic system that we have are being distracted from intentionally by people putting the focus on the trans identity debate Makes no sense, because lots of people who massively support the economic system we have don't care about the trans identity debate at all, whereas lots of people like me who really care about the trans identity debate would also happily talk your ear off about all the huge problems with our economic system as well.
My very existence has been continuously used by Johnson's contemporaries in exactly the way he described all those years ago. Luckily, as all this was going on, I was blissfully unaware.
I don't even know if that's true. So essentially the idea is like, oh, you throw a dead cat, no one's talking about anything else. People are talking about plenty of other things in the UK. It requires a level of serious self-centeredness to think that the only thing anyone's talking about in the UK is trans identity. Yeah, occasionally there will be moments where, you know, like, what is a woman makes the rounds. But yeah, plenty of other questions are being asked as well. And I don't know, I remember in my video responding to Tom Nicholas, he said, Andrew Marr was desperate to ask Keir Starmer, what's a woman? But actually, if you watch the video, he talks about this very niche kind of issue relating to transport infrastructure, and he describes it as a crisis. He says, let's talk about the crisis happening at the, I can't remember where it was, somewhere. I think it was to do with the English Channel. He's like, let's talk about the crisis happening here. So clearly, he recognizes that the big focus isn't placed on trans identity.
I distinctly remember one of my friends I built my first world with claiming that he would never play a gay game like Minecraft.
That's so funny.
And
there was actually an article in I'm going to find this because I'm interested. So this is relevant. This is not a distraction. There is actually another, like, speaking of distractions, there's one thing I'm absolutely desperate to show you, which is this video of this guy who kind of does like a fake mock video essay. Oh yeah, okay, here it is. Huge resurgence in homophobic insults in schools. So the thing is, it then says campaigner, which I don't know whether or not that's true. So yeah, children as young as 7 are using homophobic language with a huge resurgence in offensive insults in school, according to a former teacher and consultant. I have like 2 takes on this. Well, there's there's 3 things. One of which everyone else is saying, which I'm not sure about, but it could be the case, and 2 of which are things that I would submit. So the standard thing everyone's saying is, well, this is because of Andrew Tate. Loads of kids are growing up and they're watching Andrew Tate, and Andrew Tate's present, which I don't know if that's true now. I feel like that's got to be a situation surely where the adult media is behind on how fast things move on the internet, and surely kids who are much more tuned in would know he's a sex trafficker, and they'd know that's not cool, because I feel like kids know that that's not cool, right? Like, I just can't imagine a situation where kids are like, when I grow up, I want to be a sex trafficker. So, yeah, presumably, I would just think that means Andrew Tate has less credibility. It's possible there are Andrew Tate adjacent people who aren't sex traffickers and therefore don't have that baggage. I'm not sure. The second thing I say is, well, yeah, because unfortunately for gay people of the teaming with the forced teaming with the trans thing, but also there are actually genuine aspects of the gay rights movement right now that are quite objectionable. I imagine you're going to see, when you've got the gay pride march and they're wearing all sorts of fetish gear and stuff like that, a lot of normal people who'd otherwise not have, people like me, who'd otherwise not have a negative attitude towards homosexuality itself, and be like, you don't like seeing that, I don't like seeing that. But yeah, like, obviously shoving it down people's throats is going to annoy people. And a kid is, if they've got a parent who's watching the TV and it's like, here's the new gay pride flag. Look, they've wrapped Winston Churchill in a rainbow flag because they wanted to make it seem that Winston Churchill is super gay because Winston Churchill should have been gay because everyone should be gay. Also, he's wearing a dildo now. Then I imagine when the parent's like, ugh, what are they doing? Ugh, look at that. Annoyed because what a stupid thing to be doing. I made that up, by the way. Then the kid's probably just going to be like, oh, okay, so I guess we hate gay people. I could see that being the case. So that's point 2. And I think the third one is because you've got to bear in mind, when we talk about gay being used as an insult, what does that mean? It means, as we've already, so to return back to it, playing a gay game like Minecraft. Well, what does that mean? It means presumably you're using gay as just like an insult, like, oh, that's gay. So, people use the word gay, like, oh man, that's so gay. I can't believe you did that gay thing, you gay wad. It just is a generic insult. And I honestly wonder whether or not part of the issue there has come with the rise in post-irony. Because people used to be really serious about things. And during that time of it being really serious, there were certain things you just couldn't say. You couldn't call things gay. You couldn't, use mental disabilities as insults and stuff like that. And it seems like nowadays, the average person is so much more cynical towards that kind of sensitivity politics, and as such a lot more kind of post-ironic with their willingness to use offensive terms. Like I just in like casual conversations with people who I don't even know that well, I'll like cool things. I don't know if I can say it on Patreon, but the R word, referring to like people being, you know, mentally challenged, I'll be like, oh, that's so I could say it, but I'm not going to do it just because, you know, I don't want to, you know, maybe Patreon hasn't caught up with the whole post-ironic age we're in. But yeah, like the idea that anyone would be sincerely offended by that is not really on my radar anymore, just because, yeah, like I said, I feel like as a culture we've moved on from that extreme sensitivity politics, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that leads to it being way more common to be like, oh, that's so gay, that's the gayest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, so proceed.
There is nothing inherently queer about breaking and placing blocks, but what I believe fueled this notion was
what about breaking and placing cocks? Thank you.
Actually the passive and creative nature of the game, which was not seen as manly by insecure 12-year-old boys.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Like, so, yeah, you're right. Basically, it's kind of like how The Sims is kind of gay. I mean, it's not that gay, but so it's, insofar as the word gay is used to mean not manly, if it's a choice between Grand Theft Auto, where you run around shooting people, and Sims, where you start a family and you decorate their house and blah, 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 yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I don't think that's, like, right. Obviously, what you need to do, and of course the real manly thing, insofar as manly is supposed to mean being mature and grown up and stuff like that, is to not be obsessed over what's manly. Like, I would say that I'm much more mature and manly and masculine now as someone who's completely happy to play Sims or I don't play Minecraft. I actually have been playing Sims recently because I like to. But yeah, and not think to myself, oh, this is, you know, like I'd be much more manly if I was playing Call of Duty. Obviously, no adult thinks like that. So I guess like that's one of the things you should just like tell kids to get them over this whole like toxic masculinity thing. It's just, you realize like actual adults aren't like this, right? Like real serious mature adults, like the adults you probably look up to in your life. And hopefully that's not Andrew Tate. So maybe I should say the adults you should look up to in your life. They aren't like obsessed over what's masculine and what's not, and what's gay and what's not. It's just stupid. And again, obviously, the other issue is this entire idea that gay means non-masculine. There can be masculine gay people, and there can be very feminine straight people. Guys, I should say. Obviously, can be feminine straight people because it can be women.
Throughout this period, I fell into a constant state of what I now recognise as depression, and did make several attempts on my own life. Minecraft is what got me.
Seems like, was he like zooming in on his house there? Which is, I don't know. That seems like, speaking of trying to take your own life, you probably don't want to be letting people know your address.
In early 2020, when I was halfway through year 10, COVID happened, and the country went into lockdown.
Yeah, I feel so sorry for anybody who was at school. Like, it's kind of crazy because I didn't like lockdown, but I was in like the perfect position for lockdown. I was doing YouTube, like YouTube was a thing I was doing. That's the thing I did. And also I'd finished university. Yeah, I could not imagine how horrible I'd feel if lockdown happened when I was at school and when I was at university. Because I know, like, I can point to so many fun, enjoyable things that happened when I was at university, when I was at school. And knowing that I would have a whole year where I wasn't able to do it, because all those things involve, like, being out with other people. Knowing I wouldn't be able to do things, having, like, a year, was it just a year or was it even longer, where I just couldn't do that would be horrible. And then, on top of that, I also can think of times where I was like really sad and depressed, and the idea that I would be just sat at home, I feel like that would have to make it worse. So yeah, very, very much sympathy for anyone who went through that.
Now I was spared from the toxic peer pressure and bullying I experienced there. However, like everyone else,
I wonder whether or not, because like when you think about it, millennials are mostly going to be people who were too old. Like, they were old enough that they weren't going to school when lockdown... So, like, they aged out of school, but most of them probably are so young that they wouldn't have had kids who were in school. So I wonder if you're going to have like this kind of generational divide.
Together, we started Minecraft servers that I still keep in my backups folders to this day.
I mean, I am aware that I'm literally, like, sometimes just a realization hits me. I'm watching a video called Minecraft Made Me Trans. I'll say this, the video's been very autobiographical. There are moments I could have paused and, like, gave commentary similar to the commentary I've given already, where he, like, says a thing from his personal experience. I say, I wonder if there's, like, a political reality to that and why that might be the case. But I think we should try and get through this video a bit faster, so I haven't done that at a few points. But yeah, like that's mostly what it's been. I'm wondering when he's going to get onto here's how Minecraft made me trans, because so far he's kind of just said like, I didn't know I was trans, but I like playing Minecraft. Okay, where's it going?
Then I moved house to the rural southeast in 2021, and although lockdown had been lifted, I was still just as isolated.
Okay, so 16, that's crazy. 16 years old, 2021. I know that like is obviously a possibility, but it's just wild to me to think that because 2021 feels so recent, and I'm being really stupid because I started making videos when I was like 18, so I don't know why I'm being like this. Like, oh, it's so weird that this person's so young, when this is literally like, I mean, no, I didn't. I started making videos when I think I made my first video when I was 17, actually. I think. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, but I didn't upload it because I was scared.
Becoming part of this fandom led to me interacting with lots of people with different gender identities.
It's raining. I must admit, like, people who like put effort into their videos in terms of actually like going out to weird places and doing stuff. It's such an interesting thing to do when you're really early on in terms of YouTube. I don't know what to make of it as like a thing, because I'm just like, well, I can't imagine just being like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go out into the middle of a field to make this video about how Minecraft made me trans for my 2,000 subscribers.
Sexualities and backgrounds, which hugely opened my mind and got me interested in politics.
Especially considering it's not like the video is fantastic. Like this. Well, I don't know. It's fine though. Obviously, whatever. It's just funny to me. I guess like part of the reason why I'm so weird about the age is because I would believe you if you told me this person was older than me. Like that would kind of like, I would be willing to assume that.
Sick form and my...
I mean, I think I didn't even shave yesterday. I was like thinking, do I look more boyish? No, I didn't.
I began experimenting with gothic fashion and self-expression, which led to the realization that I wanted to dress in a feminine way, but was too shy at this point to do so. I practiced eyeliner for hours.
Well, surely if you're dressing gothic, you're already dressing in a kind of feminine way. Also, if you're dressing gothic, surely you can't be that shy. That's like the one thing I don't really get about this whole like, I was too shy to dress. Okay, I do get it. But just become friends with a bunch of goths, right? Because there are goths at school and they do that. And no one's going to think twice if they look at you and you're doing it. So yeah, I don't really see the issue there. Apart from, I guess, maybe that you don't like the idea of changing your friend group, or, you're kind of like... I do kind of wonder with those friend groups that are very much centered around an interest. Does that mean you pretty much like have to be friends with someone? Because like usually like friend groups just form organically around like, how do you get along with someone? But when you've got like the goth group, presumably that's all just the kids who wanted to be goths, even though if that weren't the case, maybe they wouldn't be friends at all. I'm not sure. But I guess I shouldn't be judgmental because honestly, I wish I'd had more of a nerdy friend group when I was at school. I was like friends with the cool guys and it was really boring because, nothing happened because cool people don't actually have any interest. That's part of being cool, is being aloof towards everything. Whereas meanwhile, like all the nerds were like playing chess and Dungeons and Dragons and, hanging out together and playing the Nintendo Wii and stuff, because I dated a girl who was like in the nerdy group and I was like, this is wonderful. And then I was like, I should have been hanging out with these people all along. Like, this is so much more fun. Anyway, but then I didn't because I had my friend group and I was like, I don't want to leave my friend group, but it would have been way more fun. So I guess I'm sympathetic to people who, like they're stuck in their friend group and they realize they should probably be in a different friend group. Yeah, didn't want to be a goth though.
A medieval survival server that rapidly...
Credit for saying medieval. I like when people say it as like 4 syllables.
This led to the creation of King's Coast, free on Planet Minecraft by the way, which to this day is one of my proudest achievements.
See, as someone who's never played Minecraft before, I must admit, I think to myself, I don't understand it. So, do people actually make this? Like, these, like, buildings and stuff, do people literally build them brick by brick? And if so, that's insane. I can't get... And it's like, you'll have people who'll be like, oh, this is a world I built. And the world is huge, and it has, like, houses and stuff in it. And I'm like, what do you mean a world you built? I can't even, like... I try and build one house in Sims where you can literally just drag and build a whole wall. And I get bored. It's taken me, like... I have, like, a mansion I've been working on in Sims. It's taken me probably about 4 years of on and off play. I just... Like, it just makes sense. But then, like, I don't know, because sometimes I watch these YouTube videos of, like, really impressive Minecraft builds. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And I guess on some level I do understand, yeah, the reason it's really cool is because they literally built it brick by brick. But on another level, I'm like, I can't believe that, because that is insane that people do this stuff, and I'm really impressed. So if you play Minecraft, if you've ever played Minecraft, then well done.
Testing out different labels in an expressive trial and error. But like trying to drop a circle through a square hole, it rarely encompasses everything that they feel.
Well, that's why I use multiple labels, to be fair. Like, yeah, sure. Like, I don't think there's any label I could use that would encompass everything I feel, or, like, everything about me. That's why I would use multiple labels to describe specific things. That seems like the easy solution.
I thought that non-binary would suit me best, and changed my name to MJ, because it was related enough to my dead name for people to accept, and didn't feel purely masculine.
Why are you talking about non-binary? So far, you've not given any indication that you weren't a man. You've said that you wanted to experiment with how you present yourself, but are you saying that stops you from being a man? Because that's not how things work. You know, like, you were literally just saying that you were considering being a goth. Do you think being a goth, like wearing makeup, would have stopped you being a man? Is that how you think things work? This whole idea, it's just so obviously regressive.
They can never fully encompass a unique individual human being entirely.
I think, like, part of this... So, I've heard people say that, like, autism is very associated with trans identity. And I don't know exactly what autism is. It seems like everyone thinks they're autistic, except for me. I'm pretty convinced that I'm not autistic. Because every single time that anyone tries to explain autism to me, it sounds like the exact opposite to my mentality. That's not entirely true. There's a few things about it I get. I do get the enthusiasm for... So, like, one of the things I think I'm right about is liking the idea of kind of organizing things into, like, set boxes. And I do kind of get that. I mean, obviously I have my thing with my schedule, like my famous, world famous schedule at this point. I'd say, I mean, if I was to speculate that I have a thing, I think it would be ADHD. Like, that is my assumption, because, like, I don't have the schedule. Like, I guess that's it. This is why I'm not autistic, okay? Because I don't do the schedule because I like the schedule, because the schedule gives me some kind of satisfaction. I hate the schedule, but I need the schedule. I need a very specific thing telling me what to do at every single point of my day, because otherwise I will forget to do all the important things I need to do. Like, the fact I don't like it is why I basically... every other week I'll be like, hey guys, sorry, I didn't do any of the things I was supposed to do this week because I forgot to stick to my schedule. So that's why I say it's like more of an ADHD thing than an autism thing. And I think that's a reasonably likely explanation, that, yeah, if I have this schedule, but I don't stick to it at all. Anyway, so yeah, I don't think I'm autistic, and I don't think I fully understand it. But I think I'm right that it has something to do with labels and like an obsession with putting things into boxes. Because me, I'm absolutely comfortable with the fact that there isn't any singular word that would explain who I am. And I'm kind of happy with people just not knowing who I am. I'm happy with people not even having the ability to categorize me. And I kind of rather people didn't have the inclination to categorize me. I feel like a lot of people are too quick to categorize. I was thinking about this recently. I was having a conversation with someone, and I made an argument for something, and then they started, like, describing the type of argument it was. And I was like, well, why do you have to do that? Why do you have to say it's a type of argument? Why can't you just engage with the actual argument itself? Because if you say it's a type of argument, then you're going to, like, argue against it as that type of argument rather than engaging with the argument itself. It just seems like a silly thing to do anyway. But it seems pretty obvious to me. I mean, you can probably see where I'm going here, that this person, I mean, I would not speculate you know, on like what they've got going on and like neurodivergency and stuff like that. But certainly it seems like this person has a desire to have a label that explains who they are and says, this is what I am, rather than just letting who they are exist in this complex way that's not fully understandable. And yeah, I don't really understand any kind of tension there, because I'm just completely happy with it not being really possible to communicate exactly who I am.
But that's yet another dead cat that we'll get to later. Right now we're still talking about me.
Yeah, we are. I really want to believe that I can do this video. Like, really, I should be able to do this video in one part, because not much is being said. But realistically, it's probably going to take 2 parts, but it's not going to take more than 2 parts. I will see to that.
In year 13, I wrote a psychology dissertation about the science behind being transgender and the political injustices that trans people face in the UK. A lot of the information I'll be citing in this video comes directly from my research on that project.
That's actually, like, that's pretty cool. Like, that I wish, like, one of my big regrets is I really didn't do a very good job at marrying my interest in YouTube to, like, the fact that when you're at school, you can get credit for just researching things. And now, yeah, so, like, that was, like, the stupidest thing I ever did. I mean, I guess the other stupid thing I did was study international relations. So, like, that was what my bachelor's was in, and then I didn't make any YouTube videos about international relations ever, so that was another issue.
I was able to express myself in ways that gave me enough confidence to start appearing in front of a green screen.
Yeah, I've ever told, there's someone I know personally who is trans, you know, not really, but they identify as trans, and they, I think, play Minecraft, and they definitely stream on Twitch. And sometimes I wonder, like, what is the possibility that one day I'll just be going about my day and I'll see a video from them and I'll be like, oh, it's someone I know personally. It's kind of because I think I've told you this before. Someone found out about the fact that I do the whole anti-trans thing. I'm going to call it anti-trans. And they're very pro-trans. And they were very annoyed about the fact that I do the anti-trans thing. And it was very predictable that they'd be annoyed by it. This is a family member. And I was like, thinking, oh, who told them about this? Like, who knew that I did an anti-trans channel and then told this person? Like, clearly that was a stupid thing to do, because obviously, like, they would not like that. So you're just kind of creating drama for no reason. And I spent a long time being angry at this person who I imagined would have, told them. But eventually I realized, well, hold on a minute, actually, you know what? If somebody is pro-trans and it's known they're pro-trans, they probably engage with pro-trans discourse, and it's not entirely impossible that someone who sorry, I clicked a button again. Not entirely impossible that someone who is engaged with pro-trans discourse could find out about me through the algorithm. And I thought that's like an exciting, like, obviously I'm not at a point where I'm famous enough that a random person on the street would be like, hey, look, it's King Critical. But I was like, I guess I am established enough in the kind of YouTube space and YouTube algorithm that at this point, if I know someone who is pro-trans, I need to accept the possibility they may find out about me not through someone being like, oh, you know, Michael, he has a channel where he talks about trans identity, but instead, like, they'll be watching a ContraPoints video because they, like, care about the trans thing, and then they'll see, oh, look, this horrible evil person made a response, they must be such a horrible bigot, and then they click on them and it's like, oh wait, I know that person anyway.
Began dressing in skirts and dresses in public, cutting my hair in more feminine ways, and using makeup.
They always like to mention the hair.
Up to pass as female.
Again, lots of that stuff is stuff you would have been doing if you were goth anyway, except for, like, you're just adding the phrase to pass as female, which, look, I've already said this person looks, I don't know if I have said this, I think this person looks old. Part of the reason they look old is because, you know, they're very masculine, and yeah, not passing as female at all.
This gave me so much confidence in myself and my appearance.
I mean, that's good. I'm glad they're happy.
Leading to the...
Oh, by the way, you'll notice I'm being a bit inconsistent with the pronouns I use. Yeah, that's it. I'm owning that. That's just something I do sometimes. It's not like I'm completely against calling him he. I can do that, but I also am in the general habit of saying this person, blah blah blah, just because, you know. Well, I've spoken many times before about how I tend to avoid using gendered pronouns.
Although my voice still needs a lot of work. So this...
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're even trying.
This is where we stand currently. I have socially transitioned to be a woman, use she/they pronouns, and identify as a woman. But this is...
I have socially transitioned to be a woman. It's such an insulting statement. Because what you essentially mean is you started wearing a dress, you started wearing makeup, and you grew your hair long, and you're saying that has socially transitioned you into being a woman. Considering what being a woman actually means to actual women, to say that you've just done this piecemeal thing, which again, not to suggest even that if it was significant and elaborate, that would be any better, but to suggest that you can say, based on some really small stuff you've done, that has socially transitioned you into being a woman. Not just I've socially transitioned, like if you said I've socially transitioned into the role of woman, socially transitioned to have the appearance of more like a woman, or like, you know, basically adjacent to a woman, that would be one thing. I'm sure people would still disagree. But for you to declare like unilaterally, I've socially transitioned into being a woman, reeks of male entitlement and ignorance, and of course a regressive mentality as to what being a woman actually is. And I can't say that I'm a fan of any of that.
And disinformation has been their bread and butter for a long time. Hilariously exemplified by the fake vans used in the 60s to detect if you'd actually paid your license or not. But anyway.
What's kind of weird is that, like, so he's being anti-BBC, but that's kind of like a libertarian right-wing take. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not doing like the guilt by association thing. Obviously, I recognize someone can be against the BBC while being broadly left-wing on other issues. But usually, because essentially the BBC is a state-funded media. And obviously, if you're a left-wing person, you tend to say, well, we should have a state-funded media because media being run by corporate capitalist interests is bad. But yeah, this guy's like, oh, you know, they want you to pay for the BBC, just based on, well, it's kind of stupid. We have a thing called the TV license, which I think is really stupid. I think it should just be funded directly by tax. But yeah, he seems to be critical in general of the fact the BBC receives public funding, which is interesting. I mean, yeah, I personally support having a state broadcaster. In fact, I think every broadcaster should be state run. I'm not a big fan of advertising. So yeah.
Means that they are in some ways overseen by the government, who have control of all public institutions. What could go wrong?
Yeah, okay. But like, again, isn't that really weird? Because, so is this guy a libertarian? Like, maybe he is. Like, again, obviously, I'm not saying every every single trans person has to be like left-wing and, you know, whatever, but...
The BBC has been fixated on what they call the trans debate. Which
not really. I think they're like giving it about as much attention as it warrants based on the, like, if anything, you've got to bear in mind there was a long period of time where the trans debate was being ignored by the mainstream media. So like that's the thing. Some people might say, well, yeah, sure, they're focusing on the trans debate because people are talking about it, but they're only talking about it because they're focusing on it. No, I think that for a long time, lots of the media was trying to ignore this debate, and therefore the idea that they're the ones who, I think my voice is slightly cracked, by the way, please don't make fun of me. The idea that they're the ones creating the debate, I just don't think stands up to scrutiny. And so as such, if the debate was pre-existent before they started focusing on it, I think you have to recognize that them focusing on it is a response to the reality that lots of people were talking about it. So they're basically responding to demand.
It is at its core a dehumanizing implication that trans people do not have the right to exist.
Well, again, the right to exist, okay, we all know that's a nonsense term.
There is no debate about it.
Yeah, there is. I mean, so there's a debate about trans identity being an accurate claim about reality.
And the apple of the BBC does not fall far from the transphobia tree. So how common is being...
Okay, saying the apple of the BBC does not fall far from the transphobia tree implies that the BBC was born out of transphobia, which is a crazy thing to say. To be like the BBC, which I guess was founded in like... Was the BBC founded in the 20s and the 30s? I'm pretty sure that almost as soon as the idea of broadcasting, meaning having a radio, making films, obviously we didn't have TV until the 50s, but yeah, radio and films... I'm pretty sure as soon as that became a thing, the BBC came into existence. Like, I don't think there was a big gap before the government was like, oh yeah, we should actually have a state broadcaster. I mean, yeah, it would make sense you'd come up pretty quickly, right? Like, you'd have to be a pretty stupid government to be like, hey, the radio's been invented. Let's just ignore that. The idea, therefore, that it came from transphobia, that the BBC is an arm of some transphobic octopus that's sending out his tentacles, is hilarious. I really should open my advent calendar. I believe it is the 16th today, so it's Monday, the 16th. Here it is, 16th. I looked at my wife's advent calendar. She's complete. It says, make a wish. Well, I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Yeah, she's completely trashed the, like, me. It's all reasonably neat. Hers, like, all the cardboard is like peeling off. It's cute though. Anyway, so it's a star.
We have to say that measuring statistics of these sort are incredibly difficult, and transgender.
What do you mean statistics? What does statistics have to do with trans identity?
Although in some countries like Spain, self-determination laws have been passed.
Boo.
Because without it, you'll be treated as your cisgender on all official forms, including your death certificate. This means that if you want...
But wouldn't it be worse if it was the opposite? If it was like, we had a rule of, you only get to transition once you're dead. Like, the implications of that would be kind of weird. Like, hey, you know, like, essentially, if you said that, you'd basically be saying, hey, you know, you're a trans-identified male, you want to be a woman, well,
They may have been forced to be closeted, despite knowing they were transgender. This requirement also reinforces the stereotypical masculine and feminine values, as there is no true way to quantify...
Sorry, you're talking about reinforcing masculine and feminine values, while you're the one claiming that being feminine makes you a woman, and the fact you weren't masculine is a big part of how you eventually came to consider yourself transgender. I think that might be a bit of hypocrisy. By the way, he's spending a long time talking about, like, how statistically can we know how many trans people there are, and his big thing seems to be that the government is trying to artificially decrease the number of people who are trans, like saying, because he's saying like, oh, you need to jump through all these hoops in order to have a gender recognition certificate, so it makes it seem like there are fewer trans people than there are. But I would say the main anti-trans argument would be focused on there being actually far too many trans people. The whole argument doesn't really make much sense. Like, very few people who are against trans identity are saying, and the problem is there's not really very many trans people.
It results in an outside observer attempting to review a person's internal gender experience. Once again, trying to put something fluid into a solid category.
Well, that's pretty much what the government's all about, right? Like, age is fluid. You're literally aging all the time, but you need to have solid delineation, so I don't see how you can have a problem with that.
Transaxle reported that the average cost of gender-affirming care in the UK was $5,573 in 2022. Jesus Christ.
That actually seems pretty low. That seems like, I feel like every American just cried from how cheap that is. 5,573, which is a very specific number. Maybe they added that 73 just to make it sound more official and correct. Yeah, obviously that's a significant amount, but at the same time, it's also like, I don't want to understate how much that is, but it's also to get. I mean, I don't know what gender affirming care means, but if that means getting all the surgery, all the, you know, hormones and all that kind of stuff, going completely private. So this means no waiting list or anything like that. 5,000. Just over £5,000. I don't want to understate it, but like, I think, again, from the perspective of an American, certainly, I imagine that must seem insanely low.
Although, once again, Philosophy Tube describes this far better than I ever could.
Yeah, so this guy's like a Philosophy Tube fan, which is pretty embarrassing. Not a good look.
And another thing about the Philosophy Tube video, she does the whole thing dressed up in World War II.
Is he going to say he likes this?
Pilot's gear, purely for the bit of it being a catch-22, because that phrase comes from a book about World War II pilots. And
oh dear. Yeah, if you're going to be a fan of someone, don't be a fan of Philosophy Tube. Like, don't be like saying like, oh look, Philosophy Tube is this really funny thing.
I just adore that little bit. How does this link?
It's not like it's not obscure. There's like literally a scene in that video that's from the movie Catch-22.
This means that we can't use GRC applications, population censuses, or gender identity clinic records as our metric.
I genuinely just had like the most stupid moment where, like, in my head, I was so invested in watching the Minecraft like playing video. I was like watching the Minecraft, and then suddenly, they appear, and I'm just like, oh, wow, I didn't realize. Like, genuinely, like a part of my brain went, oh, I didn't realize Minecraft, like part of the gameplay was that every now and then some dude would appear and start talking to you about gender stuff, and I was like, no, that's not. It's not part of the game.
Extrapolating this data outwards to the almost 68 million people in the UK, it can be estimated...
That's a really cool... Like, did this person make that? That's crazy. Look at that. That's awesome. See, I do like the idea of, like, properly designing cities and stuff. I think that's, like, a really fun idea, but... Yeah, I'd rather do it in real life. I'd rather just become Prime Minister and then... hire a bunch of Minecraft people and be like, all right, go make your incredible things, but in real life.
That is hundreds of thousands of people that the BBC is willing to debate existing.
Yeah, okay. I mean, so there are millions of people who believe in religions, but we don't think that it's wrong to debate whether or not religion is accurate. So essentially what's being said here is that that's 100,000 people who are claiming something. There are probably more people than that who think like that the Earth is flat. More people than that who think the moon landing was fake. So, I mean, more people than that who think that, like various kind of conspiracy theories relating to COVID and the vaccines. So, and I'm pretty sure the BBC basically has the policy of officially, denouncing that. So this idea that you're not allowed to disagree with the claims people are making about reality if enough people make those claims is just nonsense.
Is that loosening the legal requirements to transition would lead to an abuse of power by cis men to infiltrate women-only spaces for perverse reasons.
No. The main argument would be that even if the person is trans, they still shouldn't be allowed to have access to women's spaces.
Much like autogenitophilia in the 80s, it is mainly a scare tactic used to distract public attention. The dead cat thrown on the dinner table.
What do you mean it's a scare tactic used to... So what do you think their actual concern is? Because it's pretty obvious, like, hey, I mean, especially if you're talking about, for example, male sex criminals in women's prisons, that's not a scare tactic. That's just a genuine concern about a thing that would actually be terrible if it was allowed to happen, which it is allowed to happen, and that's a problem. Yeah. It's this stupid thing of being like, this is a really good argument, and I can't dispute it, so I'm just going to pretend it's a disingenuous scare tactic. Well, if it's actually a good argument, and you're clearly evidencing the fact it's a good argument by the fact you can't actually dispute it, why would you then pretend that it is something that people are just saying not because they actually believe it? Like, isn't that like a convenient worldview to have, where the actual good arguments aren't being said sincerely, and the real argument is just, I hate trans people?
This is perpetuated by both the BBC's and PM's remarks that trans women are not real women. For example, on a Radio 4...
Oh, hold a minute. So if the claim is that trans women are not real women, then surely that would mean it's irrelevant whether the men entering women's changing rooms are cis or whether they identify as trans. So that just, it seems kind of like a contradiction.
During a debate about chess, and if trans women should take part in women's chess, why that sport is segregated is beyond me.
Because of like the sociological significance of like women and the oppression they face, and if you don't understand that women have been oppressed and segregated in various areas of life, and that's why we need specific things for women, specific groups for women, then that just shows all the more how insulting it is for you to claim that you have sociologically transitioned to being a woman when you don't know the first thing about women's experiences and why it is that women would need their own chess leagues.
Justin Webb made the remark that trans women are male. He was chastised for this by higher-ups at the BBC for breaking impartiality. However, it echoes comments made in previous years by Sunak in regards to the 2010 Equality Act, which currently...
So, saying you're biologically male is breaking impartiality. That's like an interesting thing, isn't it? Because obviously, that's basically saying if you acknowledge the biological reality of who is male or not, that's considered a lack of impartiality. Really, that shows how biased things are in favour of trans identity. Or that's like an example of where an illegitimate debate is treated as sincerely. So I guess in some sense we're in agreement here that there is an illegitimate debate being treated as sincerely, but in this case it's a debate about whether or not so-called trans women are biological males. Essentially, are biological males biological males? Yeah, because obviously the BBC, they don't have a rule, like somebody's allowed to say that the Earth isn't flat on the BBC, and that's not considered a breach of impartiality, because obviously the Earth isn't flat, but apparently it's not obvious that biological males are males.
Mr. Sunak said he wants to preserve gendered words such as women or mother.
Oh, I can't put out. This has nothing to do with Minecraft. Like, this video is actually, like, really, like, I'm kind of just ignoring the fact this video is not some kind of intro, and I know it's not surprising because, to be fair, like I said, like, I was making videos back when I was 18. My videos I was making when I was 18 weren't good at all. I was always good at arguing, but I think there's, like, a craft to making a rhetorical video like this beyond, arguments. The video is not good because you think, oh, it's going to be about some kind of interesting connection between Minecraft and trans identity, or maybe it's going to be a kind of tongue-in-cheek joke about this idea that video games and like aspects of popular culture are turning kids trans, and it's clearly not about any of that.
Was conceived in the dog days of the last Labour government. Mr. Sunak added, "It has been a Trojan horse that has allowed every kind of woke nonsense to permeate public life."
I like how he says, like, conceived in the last days of the Labour government, because it just shows why the Conservatives are such idiots. Because so that means 2009. The Conservatives have been in charge, or had been in charge at the time he said that, for, I guess, between 13 and 14 years. So he's saying, hey, 13 to 14 years ago, the last government did something really bad, and we just haven't fixed it. I don't know, it just seems really stupid that they just willfully let terrible policy exist by their own admission.
Patients should know when hospitals are talking about men or women. And we shouldn't get bullied.
Good old Rishi Sunak. I've said this before, I like Rishi Sunak as a person. I just think that, well, politics is a dirty game. Ain't no one willing to clean it up. Oh, Kemi Badenoch, current Prime Minister. Future Prime Minister, current leader of the Conservative Party. It's really holding on her. Wow.
A man is a man and a woman is a woman. That's just common sense. Woo!
Oh, she loves it. She loves it.
Because in our party, we value who you are, not what you are.
Yeah, good. That's not really, that's not accurate to the Conservative Party. But, yeah, obviously, what matters isn't whether you're a man or woman. What matters is the fundamental, nature of your character.
That we can take on and stand up to this woke nonsense that wants to cancel our history, our...
I will say this, the other thing about, Rishi Sunak is he doesn't work very well as someone kind of engaged in a culture war. He's like, this woke nonsense, we're not gonna stand for it. I made him sound more gay than he is, but he's not intimidating. So he's not like Donald Trump or something where you can believe, oh wow, this guy's actually crazy. This guy's real serious about this stuff. He's kind of just you kind of get the impression he's sort of faking it, this woke nonsense. I'm like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you're really that mad.
Sunak is frequently parroting phrases from the mainstream media, such as woke nonsense.
Okay, yeah, I agree. He does. So if this is a criticism of the fact that he's very insincere and just parroting these things because you've seen other people say them, I would be willing to believe that. But yeah, no dispute of what he's actually saying. So we actually, despite my best efforts to talk about loads of other nonsense, we've managed to make it to within 10 minutes of finishing. So we're probably going to finish this next week, and I'll probably have to put up another vote to determine what we'll be responding to after that. I will see you all. I'll see you all then. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you had fun. And yeah, bye.